you ever wished you could get inside your teen's brain? What are they really thinking? How are they struggling, and how can I help? Moms, dads, grandparents, educators, this episode is for you. My guest today is known for his wildly popular online presence as the man behind I'm Just a Kid with an IEP, and is the #1 youth motivational speaker and youth advocate in the US. Jordan Toma joins us today to talk about all the things you need to do if you have a child who struggles at all with school. Growing up himself as someone who struggled with dyslexia and ADHD, Jordan knows all too well the challenges that come along with that, both as a student and parent. He credits his mom for sticking with him all those years and never giving up on her belief that he had greatness inside of him. Jordan is here to answer all the questions about what to do if you suspect that your child is struggling. We talk about testing, who to speak to, who you need to sign off, and how to get your child's team together at school to give them the best chance. He also shares the best way to communicate with your child so they don't shut down. Jordan tours the US speaking to thousands of middle and high school students, and today he is here sharing the same wisdom with you. We also get personal when I share the journey we have had with one of our kids who has ADHD, and I offer some advice of my own to moms who feel like they're drowning in a school system of red tape. I know this episode will be so helpful to so many parents, and it was such a joy to listen to Jordan's inspirational story. So without further ado, let's get to it. Here's my conversation with Jordan Toma. Well, welcome to the podcast. Jordan Toma is who I have here with me today. Welcome. So happy to have you here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. I wish I was in Nashville, but I'm happy to be here.
I know. I wish you were here. I wish you were here too. You are famously known on social media. I mean, I would say like a viral sensation with your very popular handle, I'm Just a Kid with an IEP. You travel around the country doing like motivational speaking. You have a book. Like, how did you even know this was going to be? Well, actually, first of all, let's tell everybody what an IEP is, because a lot of people might not know.
Yeah, so an IEP is an individualized educational plan.
Mm-hmm. Is that called that everywhere in the world? Is it always called the same thing?
Yeah, it's pretty much, I mean, maybe in like different countries they might call it something different, but usually like what it is if you have learning disabilities or you need support, it's basically a program where, hey, you know, there's accommodations for you to make sure you're the most successful student you could possibly be. So like you can get note taker, you can get extra time on your test, you can get, you know, anything that you need that's going to like support you, like where you struggle. So like for me, when I was in school, I needed extra time on my test. I needed a note taker. I needed someone to read the test to me sometimes because I'm dyslexic. So it'd be hard for me to understand it, even though I knew it, you know, so if I heard it, it would help. So like, it's all different, but everyone's IEP will be different.
Okay. You're very open, sharing your kind of story growing up. I think actually one of the first videos I saw of you do a lot from your car where you're like talking to the camera as though you're talking to the child. And so often it's in defense of the mom, right? Like saying to the kid, I know your mom's saying this. This is really what she means. And I often send them to one of my children. He never responds, but I know I can tell that he's seen it. So I'm like, okay, I think he's maybe paying a little bit of attention. But I really just felt very seen the first time I started watching your videos. Can you talk a little bit about your childhood and your mom?
Yeah, so with me struggling in school also caused friction with my mom because my mom was always fighting for me. And me struggling so much in school, I hated school and I hated homework and I hated everything that had to do with school because I just didn't get it. And the only person that was there in like the beginning of that was my mom. And she was the one who was like, hey, you know, you got to do your homework. You got to go to the tutor. You need to get support. And she was fighting for me. And the whole time, you know, I was struggling. I was mad at my mom and I blame my mom and I blame my mom for everything, you know, making me go to tutors and pushing me and just basically annoying me with everything I was doing my whole life, you know, and it caused me and my mom to not have a good relationship because I just thought my mom was so annoying. But more as I look back, I really just didn't like myself. I didn't like anything about myself. And my mom was trying to figure out ways, you know, to make sure that I was successful and help and feel confident and have a good self-esteem. Because when you struggle in school, it really comes down to your self-esteem. You just, you know, you lose your self-esteem. You don't fit in the classroom. You feel like something's wrong with you. You're not a good reader. Everything is just, and then that carries over into your life. not just in school.
Yeah.
So that was where things got rough, and my mom was the only one that was there. And she was letting me.
Patting you on the back.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you struggle with in school? You said you had dyslexia?
Dyslexia, dysgraphia, ADHD.
What's dysgraphia?
Dysgraphia, like,
what's that?
I would read something and I couldn't get, I wouldn't get, I couldn't, my reading comprehension, when I would read it, I wouldn't be able to get it. I have to read it and rewrite it and really get what I'm seeing. I just didn't see it the way everyone else saw it. If I read something out loud, I felt like it almost came to my brain like 2 seconds later than everybody else.
Okay.
So it was hard.
When did you start getting accommodations? When did you get your IEP?
So I was in Catholic school up until 3rd grade. And then my mom realized, because Catholic schools don't have IEPs and support like that. They have support, but they don't really have it because public schools have all the state support. So my mom's like, Jordan, you got to go. We got to go to this new school. So I went to a new school in 4th grade. And that's where I was introduced to like the resource room and, the extra help. And when the bell rang, I would go to a different classroom. That's where I started to notice, in 4th grade, things were different.
Feeling different.
Yeah, like you just you felt like you didn't know why only 4 of you were going to a different room. You didn't know it. We're still young and innocent, didn't know, but then you start to know
something's different. Yeah, yeah. Were you frustrated a lot of the times, like in school, just with the work?
Yeah, I was really frustrated in school. So when I was that young, I was, less frustrated and more frustrated at home when I got home, my mom. But as I got older, I got more frustrated in school, and then I would, act out and get in trouble and try to get kicked out of class. I would do whatever I can to just not be in the classroom, and that led to behavioral issues, that they said, but it really wasn't. I just wanted help. I just, my behavior issues wasn't, I didn't want to be a bad kid. I didn't want to get in trouble. I just felt every time I went to school, I felt like a nothing, because I never got it. And I always just wanted to go in the classroom and just get it. I just wanted to be like everyone else, just get it. I just couldn't get it. And it was hard. It was hard to deal with it.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the testing? Do you know a lot about the testing process for someone to get an IEP, like what that looks like, what they have to go through?
Yeah. Only thing that I remember is I would sit down with somebody, and it was like a psychologist, and they would do the red and white blocks, and I'd have to make these shapes. It would be red and white blocks, and you have to make a design of what you see on the paper. They would ask you to read these words, and you can stop when you can't say it, when you can't, when you don't understand the words. They would ask you questions. I did so many tests. My mom brought me to every psychologist on the East Coast, all over, and so I did so many tests. I don't even know what was going on, but there was a ton of tests, and I'm not a good test taker. I was nervous. I'm not a good reader. Everything was hard. So I did bad on everything,
And then you get the anxiety over it. Well, I was saying to you just before we started, and then I was like, let's just save it for the podcast, because I was about to share with you. So we have 4 kids, and one of ours has struggled with ADHD since, probably forever, but it really became apparent in the 2nd grade. And I did ask him last night, I said, are you fine with me speaking about it? And he was like, yeah. I do think now he's at a point where he's like, yeah, I don't care. No big deal. But we went through all the testing in the 2nd grade, and we were in a public school where they did have an IEP, and it was just taking forever. So we went and got him privately tested, and they really just came back and said, he hates school. That's your biggest problem with him right now.
Right.
He's young, he's a boy, has ADHD, but your biggest thing is he's frustrated and he hates going to school. And so we repeated a grade. We switched schools. We did switch to private just for a smaller class size. But yeah, I just remember it was 3 days of testing, and they're really specific. They have to mark all these kind of just disability markers in terms of, I don't know, reading or whatever. So I just was wondering if you've heard, do people usually all have different stories in terms of how they get to the IEP?
Yeah, all different stories, how they get there. You can get an IEP for anxiety, whoever you get there, for it. But and then the thing is this, when they do those testing, it's so hard because on paper, sometimes, you know, we don't look too good. And it's not really the true result of what's going on. So like, it's so hard, but if you need the support, it's the only way to get the support. So it's important to do it because you'll have the support forever. As you go to college, it's really important. The biggest thing is that your son says, hey, okay, yeah, this is the way that I learn, and I'm going to use these tools. I'm not going to feel bad about it. This is actually my advantage. This is my strength, right? This is why I'm going to make it. Yeah, I'm going to have to read things over and over and over again. Yeah, I'm going to maybe have extra time on my test, but this is where I build my grit. This is where I find myself. Like, I want the kids to look at this not as a disadvantage, but as an advantage, because I looked at it as a disadvantage. I didn't want anyone to know, you know, and I thought it would made me, you know, I thought I was the dumb kid and I was never going to get a job and I was never going to do anything because I didn't understand. I thought everyone looked at me like that because it's like a stigma and the kids don't want to be a part of it. But I want to change that. So when I go to schools and I throw out all my shirts, there's kids wearing shirts that says, I'm just a kid with an IEP. They don't have IEPs, you know? but it's more than that. It's about how your struggle is your strength, you know? And we all struggle. So, but the IEPs, you know, it varies, you know, with everybody.
Yeah. Well, and at my son's school, I mean, when he was little and when they went to the first school, when they would go to learning services, they would pull all the kids that were going for any reason, whether it was enrichment, dyslexia. And so they did that because then they said nobody knew why anybody else was going. Even the kids going didn't know why they were going, because then they got to their room and they got their help, which I did think was great. But as he got older, like I said, I think he really realized how the accommodations helped him in life. But in the beginning, there was just so much frustration. And do you ever speak to moms who are frustrated with the system, the school system?
Yeah, no, it's hard. The school system's hard because they have to follow like a protocol and a time limit and everything's like with the state. And then they have their procedures. And sometimes, like I talk to a lot of moms, their kids don't get the IEP. They're not getting the support because they don't qualify. Yeah. And then they have to go out on their own like you did. And but sometimes it's expensive, right? You have to do that.
It was very expensive. Yes, some people, really expensive.
You know, can't afford to do it, so they don't have it, and then they look for advocates. So it's hard. And then what happens is, as a mom or a dad, right? Like you're going in for your kid. Like it's emotional. You're emotionally attached to your kid. So like even though, you know, you're going like my mom too. My mom would go in and want to fight everyone, you know, and that's like that. But that's what like
I felt like I walked in wanting to fight everyone too.
Yeah, and then the parent and the teachers are like this. You know, this woman's trying to fight us, but like it's not really like that.
Yeah, and they're frustrated. They're frustrated. So they're frustrated with your child. Yeah,
yeah, and it's a whole thing, and it's a whole tough situation, but that's why like. When I talk to the teachers, I'm like, you got to understand, like, these are moms coming in for their kids. I mean, there's no bigger fight than that on earth, you know, that a mom's going to come in.
So you talk to teachers too?
Yeah, about that. And just say, hey, like, I know it's hard. I know sometimes maybe that kid is maybe, you know, like me. Like, I wasn't like an angel, you know. So, like, my mom's coming in to fight for me and I'm getting kicked out of class. You know, it wasn't like I was this great kid and I needed help and I was asking for help. I wasn't doing that. So, but I always tell the teachers, hey, don't forget about the kids in the back, the ones getting in trouble. They don't want to get in trouble. That's their way of asking for help. And if you look at it like that, you put your guard down and kind of, hey, let's all work together here, because that's what it's about. And that's what the mom really just wants, you know. Let's figure this out. Let's make him or her comfortable and happy and be able to see success in school, because everyone deserves to do that.
Yeah. I felt like we had got to a point where, because he wasn't acting out, he actually didn't want any attention on him. But it was almost like, because he wasn't actually causing a problem in the classroom, he just kind of kept flying under the radar. Right. And I remember just getting so frustrated and saying, like, it's because he's not bad enough to have your attention to qualify him for these things, and yet he's just kind of flying under your radar, like just soaring through. And I could see the frustration, and he finally did. We had to get him retested by another place, and he got it. But I just was wondering if you had experience with moms with frustration, and teachers. I think it's like a 360. Everyone's frustrated.
Everyone's frustrated, and like the teachers, sometimes they're moms too, so they get it. Like everybody's in it together. It's just, and there are a lot of great teachers out there too, like that really care.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
you know, if we go into it and say, hey, like, let's like, we're not just teaching math here, right? Or reading. We're teaching, you know, we're connecting with these kids. We're there for them. Like you might be like having a teacher in the classroom that says maybe to your son, hey, hey, after class, hey, I see you. I see that you're struggling. I'm here for you. You know, after class, let's sit down. That can change your son's whole life. Like, hey, they see me, you know, and if they can do that, like, that can give confidence to a kid, and like they want to do good. You know, I wanted to do good. I wanted a teacher to
You did, yeah.
to like, hey, Jordan, after class, let's do this. I believe in you. Like I didn't have that, you know. So I had my mom like saying, Jordan, open your binder, you know, and I would start getting anxiety. And then she's like, let me see your agenda. I'm like, I didn't write anything. And then I don't know. And then like, and then my homework was like smashed in the bottom of my book bag. My mom's like trying to unwrinkle it. And like, please, we got to do this.
It's like you're just telling my life.
You know? So,
yes. I've uncrumpled many. I'm like, this is not organized.
Yeah, no.
How are you organized?
No.
Oh, gosh, I know. When you look back at that, do you think there was anything your mom could have done for you at the time? Not with the school, but with you? Like, would there have been a more effective way for her to communicate with you?
No, I don't know. Like, the problem was my mom was automatically like the enemy. So like whatever my mom said, I did not even give it a second. So like, it didn't matter if she like, it didn't matter. Nothing mattered. I just, everything she brought up about things I didn't want to do, I just didn't do it. And I ran away from home. I jumped out of my mom's car when she would be at stoplights, like on the way to school. Like I drove my mom nuts, you know, and she kept coming. Like the best thing my mom did is that she didn't give up on me. And that's like important because if she gave up on me, I would have gave up on myself because I was waiting for her to give up on me. So she really didn't give up on me. I remember saying like, when is my mom going to leave me alone? And she never did. It wasn't even like I would lock my door. She would break in. I would go on the deck in my backyard and I'd put this is when I had like a Walkman. I'd put my headphones on, you know, my mom would come over, like I'd pull my headphones out, like, you know, and she made me get a job. Like everything I didn't want to do, she made me do, you know? Right. And so like, I give my mom credit for that because I put up a big fight and she fought back, you know?
Okay. Can you explain to someone, I don't know if you're able to, but as someone who has dyslexia, ADHD, when you're a child, I mean, dyslexia is probably not really a feeling, but can you explain if a parent is trying to figure out what their child is experiencing in the daytime with ADD, ADHD, what that feels like in that child's body or their mind? Yeah,
like I would say like ADHD or like say your child's sitting in class, right? I remember sitting in class and picture you're sitting there and you're like, all right, I want to get it. I remember saying, I want to do this. I'm going to do this today. I'm going to sit down and you start to listen and you're just not getting it. And then picture like a balloon when it's really close and like kind of you cut it on the string and it starts going away. And like and you're like on chapter 1 and you're learning chapter 1 in the class and the balloon is just going further and it's getting smaller. And then all of a sudden they're on chapter 4, but you're still trying to get chapter 1 and that balloon is just going, and all of a sudden it's like really, really small and like it's just gone and you lost everybody. You lost it. So like that's how like class would feel because my brain would be racing. I would hear it, but I wouldn't understand it. I wouldn't know where they were. I just couldn't get it. And it was just like a balloon going up into the sky and gets smaller and smaller and smaller until I couldn't see it anymore. And then when it was gone, it was gone. And
gone forever.
And then you just sit there and you're like, you know, like whatever, you know, and then you're like, you know, whatever you do, like I would just try to go to the nurse or I would get in trouble or I would whatever, you know, and that's what it would feel like. And then it's like, what's the point? I sit here, I try to get it, I don't get it, and you get frustrated. And then you go to the next class, and then the next class, you're like overwhelmed, and then you can't even just start that again, so you don't even give it a shot, and then you just move on and on and on. So it's so hard to like, and that might have been first period, you know, now you got all day of like, just like, I want to get this, but I can't. And that's what like school felt like for me. Every day.
And then you probably feel defeated and you probably had your mom texting you through the day, what is this? What is this? What is this?
Well, yeah.
And you're like,
I would say, Mom, come get me. You know, I have anxiety. I want to come home. You know, I don't want to do this, you know, and then she would say, no, you know, you're staying.
You're staying.
Yeah.
Did you do like physical activities when you were in school? Was that helpful at all to you?
Like sports and things like that?
Like sports, yeah.
Well, like, I was always in, like, rec sports growing up, like, I did all that stuff. But then when I got a little bit older, like I'm short, so, like, but I wanted to play basketball, and I
Right.
wasn't that good, but I didn't know. And then what happened was in high school, like, well, I failed out of my first high school. So I failed out. My parents sent me to a private high school, all boys school. Had to wear a shirt and tie, and I went. I went there because my mom told me, "Hey, Jordan, listen, you're gonna go to this new school. People are gonna believe in you. No one's gonna know you as that kid that doesn't come to school, that maybe was crying at the bus stop. Maybe you feel like you're the dumb kid. No one's gonna know you as that kid. You could be someone brand new at this school." And I was like, to me, I just wanted to be someone brand new. I didn't want anyone to know me as that kid. So I wanted to go there.
Yeah.
So I went, and when I went, I had a bad experience, and I failed out, and I stopped going to school. After I had this bad experience, I stopped going to school. I told my parents I'm never going to school again, ever. And I stopped going. My parents paid the tuition for the year. And I missed 1 month, I missed 2 months, I missed 3 months of school, and they're like, "Hey, he failed out, he can't come back." And I failed out, and when I failed out, because of this experience that I had with a teacher, because I needed help, I'll tell you what happened was, I got to my first day of school, and I wanted to change my life. I just wanted to be a regular kid and, like, do it for once. And I knew no one knew me as, like, the kid that, I used to, like, hang on the flagpole at middle school and hold on and cry, and, like, the school psychologist would, like, break my hands and bring me in, and I didn't want them to know me as that kid. And I had a paper, and my mom got me a tutor. And I remember I sat down with the tutor, but for me, I used to rollerblade around the table, because I could think better when I moved. So I would rollerblade around the kitchen table, and we would work on the paper. But I was doing the work, and to me, this paper meant I was going to be okay. It wasn't a grade to me. It was like, I'm going to hand this paper back, and I'm going to get a grade back. I'm going to be okay, and that's what I needed. I needed, like, proof that, like, I was on track or I was a regular kid. And I handed the paper in. Few days went by, he puts it on my desk, and I'm waiting. All I want to see is a grade, and I see me. It just says, "See me." And I walked up to him, and I said, what's this? And he goes, "Who wrote this paper?" And I said, "I did." And he said, "I'm going to ask you one more time. I used to work for the FBI. Who wrote this paper?" And I said, "I did. I wrote it." And he goes, "I don't believe you." And he just put, like, an X on it and gave it back to me. And that's when I went home, and I said to my parents, even when I do the right thing, even when I work hard, even when I do everything you guys tell me to do, I still fail. What's the point? I'm never going to school again. And then I stopped going. And when I failed out, I stopped going. And then after I failed out, I had to go back to my public school. And I had to go back to, I didn't make it there. So I had to go back and see everybody from middle school. And, like, but I took that negative experience and came back to high school, and it was so bad for me. And then I tried to play basketball. I got cut. And then my resource room teacher was the wrestling coach. And he said, "Hey, Jordan, listen, you want to just wrestle?" And I was, like, an aggressive, like, angry little kid. And I was like, "Yeah, let's do it."
Yeah.
And then I wrestled. And wrestling, like, gave me some peace. Like, gave me like, an identity in a way,
Yeah.
And that, like,
a win.
Yeah, like, I felt like, all right, at least I fit in here a little bit, but how I felt in school carried over into, like, everything in my life, even wrestling. So even though I was naturally, like, a good wrestler, I still had no confidence. I still was, like, angry, and it didn't really help. It helped me maybe with a little frustration and, like, identity, but it gave me something to do. And definitely my parents were happy that I did that,
And then you graduated high school.
I graduated high school at a 1.7 GPA. I failed at almost every class. My SAT score, I don't know what it was. My dad just, like, back in the day, this was 2008. We used to fill out the Common App, but, like, it was, like, paper, and you had to put your SAT score on it. And I remember I said, "Dad, what's my score?" And he said, "Very, very bad." Like, he never told me that number, So
he just wrote very, very bad in the comments section.
Yeah,
but you got into college.
Well, I got in because I got denied from every college. And what happened was, we applied to this one college. I got suspended the second to last day of school of my senior year. And I came home, and there was an envelope, and I ripped it open, and it said, "You've been accepted to Centenary College." But when I applied, my mom drove up to the college, like, for weeks before, and annoyed everybody and begged them to accept me. And I know my mom is, how she is, and they were like, initially they were like, we don't, like, and I understand what they were saying. They said, on paper, students like Jordan don't, make it here. So like if we accept Jordan and not someone else that can make it, it's not fair. That's the way they were telling my mom. And my mom was like, you can't look at the paper. Don't judge him on the paper. He needs someone to believe in him. He needs someone to accept him. He just needs a new place. You meet him in person. Like, he can do this. I know he can, because my mom saw that in me. And she was fighting with them, and they were like, we don't know. And then the second to last day of high school, when I got suspended, it was at my house, and I got in. But I got in under one condition. I had to go to the Step Ahead program, which was summer school, in one day. So like after I got suspended, next day I graduated, and then I had to go to summer school for 8 weeks in a college. And that was like insane for me. I thought my mom like made this program up to ruin my life. Like, this was insane. It was just an insane situation.
Oh, she had finally won. She finally ruined your life.
Yeah, she ruined my life.
But you did it.
I did it. She shot me. I tried to escape the car. She put the child lock in, and I tried to jump out. And I was going to jump out.
Did you figure it out in college? Did you figure out, like, did you feel like you finally, like, it clicked?
What clicked was, so my mom left me there, and this program was set up perfectly for a situation like me. It was, hey, this is what time you're going to wake up. Right after you wake up, you're going to go to class. Right? Or you're going to go to breakfast. You're going to go to breakfast. Then you're going to go to class. After every single class, you're going to go to a tutor. So if you didn't understand what happened at the first hour and a half of class or hour of class, where you're going to go to a tutor, you're going to go over what happened one-on-one. And that was huge for me, because I never got it in class, but I got it with the tutor. And I never had that before. So I would go class, tutor, and then I had a social worker at 9 a.m. every Wednesday that I had to go to. And I had to talk about my anxiety. Had to. It was built in.
Is that because you had an IEP that followed you?
Yeah. So,
like, was that an accommodation?
Yeah. So, like, when you have an IEP, this is good for all your viewers to understand this. When you have an IEP in high school, when you go to college, you don't have an IEP, but you can get a 504. So the 504 in college, the accommodations, you can get them in college, but you got to make sure you use that program at the college.
Do you have to apply for that, or does it just follow you?
No, usually you got to apply for it. You got to make sure you're part of it. And sometimes it might cost more. Like, you got to figure it out at the college.
Oh, okay. Do you think there's an age-appropriate age to have with, like, the conversation with your child? This is what's happening with you. This is the testing. These are your accommodations.
It's hard, because like now I'm a dad, right? And I have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. Okay. I think about it, right? Like, the one thing about kids, I go back as myself. I used to listen to my mom talk to the therapist and psychologist, and I would hear all the bad things, right? I would hear all the things that, like, he struggles with this. And it made me feel like I had a problem. That's what it made me feel like. And when you're young, you can't really conceptualize everything that's going on, because you're just young. Yeah. And you don't know how to take it, And from my experience, and everyone's different, but I would hear it, and it just made me think, no matter what, something was wrong with me. Something, whatever it was, whatever way they said it. And so it's hard. Like, you don't know. Like, it's a really hard conversation, because it's like almost like ignorance is bliss, right? Like, if they don't know and they just keep showing up, and they're all they know is, hey, I got to work 10 times harder than everyone. That's my gift. That's my strength. That's who I am. Like, that's it. But then as soon as you're like, hey, you have this, this, and this, that's when you start to go, wait, like, what's wrong? Like, what is that? Like, why do I have this? Like, when maybe if you say, hey, this is who you are, this is your gift. Like, you were born this way. You were born, hey, what you have to do might feel unnecessary, but it's necessary for you and your life. And this is why you're going to be successful, and not really give it like, hey, this is what you're diagnosed with. Okay. That's just for me, like, how I looked at it. Yeah. But every kid, you don't know, like, how they're going to, you don't know. You just don't know how they're going to take it. You just don't know. I think it comes down to, like, a mom and a dad doing, like, a game time decision. Like, hey, let's look at their self-esteem. Let's look at their, how are they with their friends. Like, let's see where they're at in their life and make a decision on how you want to do it.
Do you ever encounter parents who are not on the same page as each other?
Yeah, for sure. Like, even like, I remember when I was younger, like, my dad was like that. My dad was like not agreeing, and my mom was like, hey, he needs the help. But the big thing is the child needs the diagnosis to get the accommodations. Yeah. So it won't like you have to. So that's the other hard part. Like the child has to, if he or she needs the help, they need to get the diagnosis. Because a lot of parents are like, hey, I don't want my son or daughter getting a diagnosis. Like I got a call the other day. It was a parent. They were like, hey, do the colleges see on the application that they have an IEP? Like, and their kid was like young, like my son's age. So they were worried, like one day that the college is gonna see that the students learn. And I wrote back, I'm like, who cares, right? If they see it, that doesn't matter. What do you think the college is gonna look at that and go, hey, we're not gonna accept them? Because that's like the stigma, but it's not true. And it doesn't mean someone's not smart because they need accommodations. It just means they learn a different way, like we all do, and we all have different gifts, you know. And to tell you the truth, like, I did an IQ test in high school. It was so bad. My mom was crying, and she looked at me and said, please tell me you didn't try. And I looked at her because I felt bad that she was crying, and I said, Mom, I didn't try, you know? But I did try, you know?
You had tried? Yeah.
And I'm telling you guys this so the viewers can like hear this, like, and the parents, if they're worried, like, don't be worried. The IQ test means nothing, right? Like, I have multiple businesses. I have, you know, a real estate. I have over 10
And now
properties.
you're like in finance, right?
I'm a financial advisor. I have my own business. like I'm not good at math, right? So like, it doesn't matter, right? Your child will figure out a way to navigate through their life. And I always tell the kids, your life prepares you for your life, right? And that's it. It's your life. And you're going to grow, you're going to be strong, and you're going to be ready for anything because of your life. And no one else is. And yeah, you might fail test. You might fail. You might not do good on the IQ test. You might have the lowest SAT score ever. You might get denied from every college. People will tell your parents that they can't go to college, but they told mine, right? But you will keep showing up. And you will persevere, and your kids will, and they will overcome it, and everything that they went through will be the reason why they're successful, what they end up doing. And it will lead them right into the right direction. So, you know, no fear. You know, I don't want the parents to be fearful.
I think it's fearful because, like, at least when I was growing up, there were no diagnoses for kids. And I can look back and think of kids in my classroom who probably had X, Y, or Z, but instead of being diagnosed, they were just always in the principal's office. And so I think for a lot of us, like growing up, and it's just new territory, and we had never kind of heard what these things were, and accommodations and testing and all that kind of stuff. And like you said, I think at the beginning, there can be that bit of a stigma that you're like, have I not given them good enough school? Have I not helped them with their homework enough? And you probably think there's something that that you can be doing. So I think the stigma, I think it's going away. I hope. I think what you're doing is
I'm trying
definitely
to like break
helping.
it. Yeah. Like even I had a mom come up to me one day. I was giving out books. Like I'll show up in a town, just give out books for free to everybody. And this woman was like, hey, I follow you. She's like, are you married? I'm like, yeah. She's like, you have kids? I'm like, yeah. She's like, you live a normal life? I'm like, yeah, I live a normal life, you know, because like maybe their daughter or son had an IEP. They were just worried their daughter or son wasn't going to live a normal life. Like and so like, I want to show, hey, like I was your kid, you know, it's going to be all right. So, but I get it.
If there's a mom listening who thinks their child is struggling, like she doesn't know what it is, but there's something, and in her gut, there's something. And maybe the teacher's like, no, they're fine. They're whatever. Like, do you have advice for that mom who, I know you said trust your gut, but so you've trusted your gut. You're like, okay, my gut is telling me that they need some sort of help. I don't know what it is. Like, what do you do? Like, what does she do tomorrow for her kid?
Like the best thing to do is like figure out where her daughter's struggling, and the mom will know, like she'll know, like more than anyone, right? So like you can bring your daughter to anywhere to get tested for anything, you know, ADHD, anything, and then I would do that no matter what. Like first thing I would do is I would sit down with all the teachers, tell me how he or she's in class, like tell me what's going on. This is what I see at home. Tell me what it's like in class, and then figure out a game plan of where, you know, just because even if he or she does not use the accommodations, but just get them just in case they need them one day and go through the process.
How do you know what accommodations to ask for? Or is that given to you?
Well, after they get like, evaluated, they'll say, hey, this is like where they struggle and this is what we recommend, you know, what comes with that. So like if they're dyslexic or if they have ADHD, like it will come with their IEP. Like they'll recommend it. Like the head of the child study team might say, hey, you know, we recommend this is part of their IEP. Extra time, definitely, you know, a word bank, you know, whatever it is, like they'll make sure they bring up all the accommodations and see what, because there's not that many different combinations. Like most kids will have, you know,
extra time, which is huge.
It's huge. No pressure on getting it done. And, you know, the hardest thing is like everyone knows you're the kid that's sitting there and everyone handing their work, and then you go take it in another classroom, and then the self-esteem aspect of it. That is the hardest part.
So looking back on yourself as a young boy, I mean, what advice would you have for moms, like how to speak into your child about that not being something to be so self-conscious of? I
would, for my son, if he ever struggles with this, my biggest thing is like, I would worry about their self-esteem right off the bat. So I would always want to know where they're at. And as a parent, I would say, build up your kids, like build them up, like look at, you know them, right? Where are their gifts? Some are mechanical, some are good at building, you know, like building things. Some are good at sports, some are good at maybe music, right? Build them up on their gifts. So look where their gifts are. Put them in there, like put them in piano practice, let them perform on stage, right? Baseball, whatever it is, whatever they're good at, karate, rock climbing, whatever, right? Push them towards that. Let them see success there. And then where they struggle, show them, say, hey, listen, like this is the way like I would need to hear this. Hey, listen, math's hard. Reading out loud is hard, right? Maybe you're never going to be the greatest reader, right? That's okay. But the same way you work, you know, at the things that you're great at, you got to work at the things that you're not great at, because this is how it works. You work really hard at reading, writing, math, right? Even though you don't like it, even though it's hard, and you get a C and you gave it all that you have. So what? It's okay. You gave it everything. The real great is who you become, right? And build them up. They say, look how great you are at rock climbing. Look at all your gifts. You have that. But if you don't work hard at things that are hard for you, you'll never get to your potential, the things that are your gifts. So show them how those are your gifts. You're going to be okay no matter what. But if you don't give it your all here, we're not asking you to be the greatest reader. Like there's no pressure to beat the greatest reading level, you know? Yeah. A lot of parents get really nervous on like this kid, their child's reading level. And I'm not saying you shouldn't learn to read. Everyone should be able to read, right? But I'll tell you right now, I read my son's books. He's 4 years old. I mess up on words. You know, I say that my wife's like, Jordan, are you kidding me? You know, and I'm like, my eyes are, I messed up, you know, but you know what? I'm done with that part, you know, of my life. I don't have to read out loud. I'll never read out loud again, right? Like, even when I go to like, my buddy was getting married, he's like, hey, can you read out of the Bible? I'm like, dude, if I read out of the Bible, I'll mess it up, you know?
Do you think it seems like it's more boys than girls? Do you think that's an accurate statement?
Oh, yeah.
For ADHD and for all of it?
Yeah, it's a lot.
Seems that way.
It's a lot more boys. I think they're more diagnosed with ADHD. And like ADHD is so like, it's so weird. Like, it's like, what's it? Like, if you look, I don't know like truly how this works, but if you look at the brain, is there like a part of the brain where it says, hey, we know that this means they have ADHD? I don't even know if that's real. I think it's just a diagnosis that is given. Just a hyperactive kid, right? So like, I don't know, like the qualities of someone with ADHD, like disorganized, minds racing, right? Like all over the place. Like I have all that, but I also think that's just like, that's me. Like I wouldn't be able to
your personality. Yeah. When we went for our original testing, so he was in the 2nd grade, and when we got, you know, you go in, you've spent all this money, you've been there for 3 days, and you are like expecting them to present you with like the answer to fix everything.
Right.
And she basically was like, well, this is fine, this is fine, this is fine. She said, does he have ADHD? Probably, but is he also a boy? Yes. Might he grow out of it? And so I kind of was like, well, wait, does he or doesn't he? I mean, he ended up having it and getting diagnosed with it later. But, you know, at the beginning, she just was like, your narrative right now is that he hates school. And he hated school because his confidence about school was just in the gutter. And it's because she would teach a lesson. And then she would say, okay, now complete this sheet of questions on what I just taught you. And he hadn't been paying attention. All of a sudden she hands the homework. He doesn't know. He didn't want the attention on him. And I would say, why didn't you ask for help? And he said, well, you're not allowed to ask for help. You have to ask your desk partner first. And I'd say, well, would you ask your desk partner? And he'd say, well, yeah, but she had to do her own work. And I'd say, well, then why didn't you go and ask the teacher? And he's like, oh, I didn't really want to. And I just think he just didn't want any attention on him ever for that reason.
Right. And then like you kind of like throw in the towel, you know, you like, and you just want to kind of get by. You just want to get done. Like I just want to be done with school. I want to graduate and just get out of there, you know? But the bad thing about that is if they get in that situation, they never push through those moments, like those hard moments, because later in your life, right? Like I'm a financial advisor. There's always going to be a test, right? Whether the test matters or not, whether the stuff you study for is in real life, it's usually not, but you're going to have to pass the test, you know? So you're always going to have to like take a test or study or read something. It's just, no matter what, even though every day you're not going to do it, like to be a nurse, you got to pass the test, right? To be an advisor, you got to pass the test. To get your real estate license, you got to pass the test. There's always a test. It's so annoying, but. And
do you have a number when you go to speak at these schools? Is there like an overwhelming, like, are kids kind of always saying the same thing to you in different ways? Like whether it's a complaint or something that feel like their moms aren't understanding? Like
at the end when they come up?
Yeah.
You know what the biggest thing is when it's scary because like when I'm done with schools, like a lot of the kids come up to me and they feel so alone. They just feel alone and they feel like nobody cares, like, and they feel invisible and they feel suicidal and they feel like they're not worth anything. That's like the biggest thing. And I try to show them, hey, like you're on track, right? Like when things aren't working out, you're really working out. You're figuring out like I always tell them like, it's not about, you know, all the good days. Anyone could show up on the good days, but it's the hard days that count, right? And not a lot of hard days, but those are the days that really count in your life, and it's going to be okay, and this is why, you know? And I ask them, like, look around, like, think about the people that are on your case that are annoying you, they love you, right? They're not against you. Like, whether it's your mom, your dad, your grandma, a teacher that's on you, right? They're doing this because they see something in you. And, but bigger than that, though, I'll tell you, they just feel like it's never going to be okay. Like they have anxiety, like so much anxiety where they have to go to the doctor. So much
anxiety.
Yeah, so much anxiety where their insides are hurting. And I get that. I've had that, you know, and they just want to relate and say, hey, like, you're like me, you know, it's going to be all right. I just need a hug. You need to give them a hug, you know? Yeah. And so that's like a big part of it.
They can see themselves in fast forward almost.
Yeah. And like they could see like, hey, I'm going to be all right. Like, because I used to think I was never going to be all right. I thought I was never going to get a job. I thought I used to see my dad go to work, and I used to remember saying, like, I'll never go to work. Like, I'll never. I thought I couldn't go to work.
Do you think that's a theme in a child with a learning disability? Because we're all kind of taught, like, the progression of life is you go to school, you go to college, you get a job, you support yourself, you support your family.
Right.
So if you can't go to school, then the rest of it is just what? Like, it's just... I mean, are we kind of almost failing our kids by teaching them that there's just this one path to success?
One track, yeah. Like I would say, like you have to like navigate through school, right? But like the biggest thing, but like the biggest thing I would want to tell the kids, right, is like, hey, like the deciding factor of how you did in school is not a correlation to you how successful you're going to be in your life. Like that has nothing to do with it, right? Your effort. And your ability to work hard has a lot to do with it, but not your grades and the way you comprehend things. Like that's not gonna correlate to success. So like, and maybe you're gonna be an entrepreneur. Maybe you're gonna start a business, right? Like maybe you're not gonna have a job. You're gonna be your own boss. So, but the only way to figure that out is to keep showing up, keep trying new things, never give up. You know, school's hard, but if I didn't go to college and I hated school, just like your teacher told you about yourself, like, he hates school. I do not like going to school. I never liked sitting in class. I didn't like it. I can't sit still. I can't do anything like that. Like I have to be like running around. But if I didn't do something I never thought I can do, which was school, I wouldn't have had the confidence to get up in front of 700 kids and go for it, you know, because I'm like, if I can get through school, I can do anything. That was it. Like after I graduated, I was like, if I can get through school, Oh, being an advisor is hard. It's not hard. Like I just graduated college. I can go make phone calls for 10 hours and sell life insurance, and I can do that. You know, I can
Mm,
sell windows door to door. I can go buy real estate. I can do so. I can write a book. Right? School was insanely hard, and I think
yeah.
that's important for. I tell the kids that, hey, if you can do the hardest thing in your life now, whatever you want is going to happen for you later. But you gotta prove it to yourself now. You know, and it's a big part of it
Yeah.
because I owe Centenary to that. And that's why I go speak there every year because for
Mm.
free, because if they didn't do what they did for me, they gave me confidence I'd never had before. And even though that was my biggest fear, it was almost like my springboard.
Wow. What is your, I mean, obviously she's probably very proud of you, but what does your mom think of you? I mean, is she just like, I never thought we would get here? Or is she like, I knew he could get here?
Well, like my mom always says, like if there was a crystal ball, you know, and
Yeah.
it said like this is what Jordan would be doing at 34, she said I would never believe it.
Yeah.
You know, like so
Yeah.
she always would tell me like Jordan, like she'd always like always run us a little boy. It's like Jordan, you have charisma, you have something about you, that's your gift. She's
Yeah.
like, but you can't give up. Like in school, she would always tell me that. And I would be like, Mom, I'm dumb. You know, I'm not smart. I'm short. I just want to be taller. You know, I was just mad about everything in my life. And she
Yeah.
would always say, no, but you have, you know, this personality is just good. Like you're going to be okay. And like, you know, when you're a kid and you have a low self-esteem, things can go wrong. You can make bad decisions. You know, you can go down a bad
Mm.
path. And I always have my mom in my ear. And I tell all the moms this, like, you think your kids are not listening, right? You think they're not. They act like they're not listening. And I did too. I act like I wasn't
Hmm.
listening. I put my earphones in. I locked my door. I just did everything that every kid does. But I heard everything my mom said, but I didn't hear it in
Mm.
the moment. I heard it when like I was by myself and I wanted to quit, but I would remember the things my mom told me. Hey, Jordan, like, I believe in you. I love you. You're smart. You got this awesome personality. You have charisma. You got all these things that my mom told me. I hung on to in the back of my brain, and I use
Okay.
that to push through. So like I tell the moms this, don't stop telling your kids all those things, even though you feel like they're not listening. They hear you. They hear you,
Yeah.
but they're gonna act like they don't hear you, but they're listening, you know?
Well, I loved what you said about how you were waiting for your mom to give up on you.
Yeah, like I was waiting. Like I remember like
Yeah.
saying, like, when is my mom gonna stop?
Yeah. Never. Okay. Can you talk a little bit about the toolkit that you have?
Oh,
Or it was that the pillars to success?
y-
I heard you. What did I hear you say that? Or I read about like this. Well, and I guess probably a lot of it's what you talked about, but like the confidence and the choices you make.
yeah,
And
yeah. And the self-esteem, like I have like these pillars that I just put, I give it out for
yeah.
free. I could send it to you. And like,
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
basically like, it just breaks down like these are the things to success. It has nothing to do with schoolwork, but it's just like these attributes about yourself that like you have. And if you can use them, you know, to get through school and what's hard for you, like, and
Yeah.
you hold on to these 7 things, you apply that to anywhere in your life, everything's going to be okay. Like whether it's in school, your
Okay.
first job, and I give that out to parents and stuff. Like, and I made that in the beginning, and I would give them out to like, you know, everywhere I went. And when I do conferences, I just bring them all. But it's just something for kids to see, like, and just it's really simple and easy.
Okay. When you started doing your videos,
Yeah.
did you have any idea that they would take off the way that they did?
No, like this was 2020, and I was an advisor, and like when you're an advisor, you just basically cold call all day. And like as a new
Okay.
advisor, like I was young, you know, I was like
In
in
finance.
finance, you know, you just basically
Okay.
you're trying to build a business. That's what you're doing, and you
Yeah.
work by yourself. And I would call all day long and sell life insurance all over New Jersey, drive around my car at 10 o'clock at night and just do it. And I sold like the second most life insurance in the country. I was successful. I bought a pre-existing insurance business, and like, I really like was just going by, like, I was just going for it, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, when you're doing something in your life, you're like, this is not my life. Like, you know, like, I'm
Yeah.
like, this is not, like, you know, we all have that vision of like what we want to do in our life. And
Yeah.
sometimes when we're not doing what we want to do, you just have like that pit in your stomach every day, you know it. And I knew it. I'm like, there's so much more that I want to do. And 2020 is when like TikTok came out, like kind of, and I was home because of COVID. I just had my first baby, and I'm sitting there, and I remember I went outside. I'm like, you know, I want to make a video about, you know, struggling in school, you know, and I just like hit the record button, and like all my videos, I don't think about it. I just hit the button and go. Like, that's how my brain works. So I just do it. I just did it.
Yeah.
And I remember waking up with the baby at like 3 a.m. I looked at my phone. I had like 300,000 views. And I'm like, oh, this is crazy. I'm like,
what was your first video?
my first
what video was
ever
that?
was, I made a video how I said I was sitting in the classroom, and all of a sudden I saw the school psychologist in the doorframe, and he called me out of class, and he brought me to a room, and I took this test, and I had to read all these tests, and then I came back to class, and I had to read out loud, and I messed up on all the words, and everyone corrected me. And I talked about all these things that happened like when I was in school and how bad I felt. And then I said, but then as I got older, I realized it didn't even matter, right? That never even mattered. And then that's all it was. It was like nothing like about my mom. It was just about struggling in school and self-confidence. But I saw so many kids and parents like all go, hey, that sounds like me. It sounds like me. And I'm like, wow, maybe there's so many kids out there like that felt like me my whole life. Maybe I can help them now, because I never thought I'd be successful with anything. And like I was like moderately successful in my own financial like success world of like the financial industry, but never like outside of there. And then I made another video. And then like I kind of like went viral for a while. But it kind of like calmed down. TikTok kind of got famous, and like the algorithm changed. Things changed. And then it was, I was like 2021, I think it was, or maybe 2022. I was in my basement. I moved into my new house, and I just like was thinking about my mom. And I just like hit the record button. I was just like, mom, you're so annoying, right? That was like the first mom video ever. It's on my TikTok. I was like, you're so annoying.
Okay, that's the one I know. Yeah.
And I just like said whatever like I thought from my heart, and I woke up and I had 10 million views. And that was like when like I realized like what this was,
I'm onto something.
Yeah. And I was like, wow. And then but like 2015, I was always trying to speak in schools. Like I'm just keeping the IEP. I had the LLC. Every school.
Oh, you already had the name.
I had the name because when I was in college.
How'd you get the name?
It's crazy how I got the name. When I was in college, Centenary never wanted me, right? They like took a chance on me. And after they gave me that chance, like I came in, I changed my whole life. And then I was like, the poster boy of the program, because I came in with a 1.7, I graduated with a 4.0. So every time, there was a 4.0 in the program. I graduated college with a 3.3. So like in the summer school program, I had a 4.0. Like I got all A's. So that was like crazy for me. I never like, and 18 years old in that program was the first time I ever passed an assignment on my own. I never got a grade back in my life. It was like in that summer program was the first time I ever got like a grade back. So like I tell parents like and moms like, hey, like I was 18. I never got a grade back. So don't worry. Your kids are going to be okay. Like don't stop. Their moment is coming, right? And it takes one moment. Like I always tell them, you're one moment away, right? We're all one moment away, but it might be
I agree.
5 years from now, it might be 10 years, but the moment's coming, right? Just got to keep going. And so they would bring me in and be like, hey, Jordan, can you talk to everyone at all these child study team people? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And I would sit at a table. And then this one woman said, how does it feel being in college with a learning disability, like with all these kids, right? And I didn't really know how to answer. And I just looked at her and I was like, I don't know. I'm just a kid with an IEP. And everyone started laughing. And then I just like remembered that. And then 2015, I just made my LLC, and I just started reaching out to every school in New Jersey and said, hey, let me come speak at your school. And they just said, no, we don't know who you are.
They did.
Yeah.
Right.
They didn't want me.
Was it that they didn't know who you were, or they didn't believe that it was a necessary topic to speak about?
I don't know. They just like blew me off. Like they didn't even give me a chance to like say what I wanted to do. And like, they didn't even like they didn't even give me a chance. But like, I was so used to nothing working out in my life that I was like, I'm going to keep going, And then I bought on Vistaprint. I remember I created a postcard, right? And it was like, I bought a list of every principal in the United States, email address, and the address of like their school.
You can buy that online?
You can get their email address, and then you can get like all the schools and their addresses. And
oh my gosh,
I took this list and I made like this postcard. And on the postcard, I put like Jordan Toma, motivational speaker. Then I put principal teacher, right? But I spelled principal wrong. I'm a bad, so I messed up. And I spelled principal like the other way, you know, principal.
Yeah.
And I sent them all out. And I remember it cost like $4,000 all in to make everything nice, plus buy the list, everything. And they stamp it for me. But like, I'm like a risk taker. So I'm like, let's do it, you know, $4,000, whatever. And not one school wrote back. The only school that wrote back was a school in Alabama that said, hey, you spelled principal wrong. That's all she said. And I was like, man, I did. And I didn't even know. And that was it. And nothing. And then 2017, the first time ever, a school sent me back an email. Hey, we're looking for a motivational speaker. All we have is a $500 budget, but we're in California. Where are you located? I'm like, I'll be there. Right, whatever. And then I booked my flight. My flight was $650, so I lost money, right? And I didn't even know what I was going to say. 700 kids walked in the gym, and I just did it. And I was scared, right? Like, public speaking is scary. Yeah. And especially when you have 700 high school kids, like, that's like...
Teenage kids, that's a hard audience.
So hard.
Yeah.
and it is hard. And I tell, like, parents this, like, if your kid is having a hard time, like, sitting in school, like, and can't sit still and it's just not getting it. Like, they just learn differently, and they're maybe more of a hands-on learner, like, you know, in the game learner, like in the ER. Like, listen, I gotta learn on the fly. We'll figure it out in the ER. You know, I don't want to learn like in the classroom. I learn in the ER. You know, and I remember there were these courses. They were like, hey, if you want to be a motivational speaker or a speaker, sign up, and it's $4,000, $5,000, and you sit down in the class. I'm like, no, my class is gonna be. I'm gonna go to California. I'm gonna mess up in front of 700 kids, and I'm going to figure this out, you know? And I did it, and I really didn't feel good about it, because I've never done it. I didn't even know what I did. And I was on the plane going home, and I got one email from one girl that said, hey, I'm not going to give up because of you, and like sent me a thank you note. And that was like, that's when I said, I got to keep doing this, you know? And that was like 2017.
How it was born.
Yeah, and I just kept pushing it, but still nothing. And then 2022, like, I started, like I said to my wife, Kate, we're not selling insurance anymore. We're going to go from like financially here to like here. It's going to get very bad. And I just had my first baby. She's like, are you nuts? You know, and I said, I can't live, you know, my life doing what, like, I know what I got to be doing. And whether this works or not, I'm going for it. And I believe in myself because I'm like, Kate, you know, I told my wife, everything's been hard. I can do this. Just let me figure this out. I figured out school. I figured out how to pass the Series 65. I figured out how to be a financial advisor. I can do this. And I had all the failure prior to like say, hey, that's the reason why I'm going to make it. And that was a big, you know, help for me. And then, you know, I got on the Today Show and all that stuff was you know, kind of just happened after, you know.
Were you surprised how many kids related to you?
I was surprised because, like, social media is so different. Like, when I was younger, I had no one to look at or know that they struggled like me. So when I think when I was like on there saying this, kids were on it and going, hey, that sounds like me. And they finally had someone to relate to. So, but I was surprised by how much they like would reach out, and not just the moms, but like the kids, you know? And because the moms, like, you know.
Well, you probably felt like a safe space for them.
Yeah, like it.
To reach out and say what they needed.
Yeah, they felt like I understood them. And then, you know, it felt good. And I just wanted to help all the kids. I wanted all the kids to know, like, hey, like, I've been there, but this is why you're going to be okay. And then I wrote my book. And then.
Yeah. What's in the book? What can people find
in the book? Every chapter, like the way I wrote the book. So I wrote it, no ghostwriter. I like typed it every word. And I edited it, and I'm not a good editor, right? I was like, hey, this looks like a run-on sentence, and put a period here, you know, and whatever. And but I want it to be like raw and real. And in the book, every chapter is like a page or two, maybe even 3. But I talk about like every chapter has a little story of struggle, but it also has a little message. So everything is like, hey, this is what happened. This is why it happened, but this is what happened after it happened. And I try to give everything like if people a positive message after everything that happened.
For parents and kids?
Yeah, for parents and kids. Like, they want to know what it feels like. They would read it and go, well, that's my kid. You know, that's what they're dealing with.
Which I think is so beneficial to, I've just seen even like on Instagram, some posts that talk about what it feels like to have ADHD, and, you know, they'll put it in like real life examples to give you an idea like what it would feel like. And I mean, sometimes it's honestly kind of heartbreaking as the mom, but it's also, I think, just a really great way to try to understand like what your kid is going through.
Yeah, because like as the mom, like too, like it's easy to be like, you know, lose your patience, right? It's hard.
Yes.
It's hard.
Yeah, it is. You're frustrated, and especially if you have other kids, you're like, well, wait, this worked for them. Why isn't it working? Why isn't it working for this one? Yeah.
Yeah, and then and you're like the enemy. So like you're the target.
Yeah.
And it's just so hard. It's like, you know, I'm like, I love you. I believe in you. I want the best for you, but you just don't want to listen to me. And that's why like I make these videos too. Cause I'm like, I know I didn't listen to my mom, but I know they might listen to me and then listen to their mom. And and then I get message from moms like, you have no idea. My son told me he hated me every day and he gives me hugs. He loves me. You changed like everything. Like it just for my video. So like, it's crazy. Wow. It's crazy how like these kids are almost all in the same boat. But then some kids don't have a mom, and that makes it like harder for them to not like, who do you got in your corner that's gonna fight to the end for you, you know? And then you know, that's the other hard part about it.
I often used to think that, like, what about the kids who don't have a parent, a mom or a dad, who are fighting for them, who are at the school, fighting for the testing, fighting for the accommodations, making sure people are following through? I mean, do they just fall through the cracks?
They fall through the cracks, or like maybe you get like a teacher, right, that like sees it and says, hey, like I tell the teachers, like, maybe you're the only one, right, for that kid.
Yeah.
And like usually they'll know what's going on. And like I'm like, you gotta fight for that kid. Like you see something good in that kid, you gotta fight for him. Like so, like even though it's hard for them to do that with so many kids, and they have their own kids, right? So. But I try to tell teachers that, like, hey, like, you know, you might be the one to do that for them. Yeah. So just be there, because, you know, it's just hard. So many kids do fall through the cracks because of it.
Yeah. Can people come and see you speak anywhere, or do you only speak like at schools that book you, or do you ever do like public speaking?
Yeah, like I am doing it. Like I do like I've been holding my own events. I just started doing it. So like I'll rent the theater and then sell tickets. Okay. So I've been doing that. They worked out. So like those are open to the public. I'm doing a lot of the Paul Mitchell schools. Like, so like the owner of Paul Mitchell schools, he's a really cool guy. He reached out, he's like, hey, I want you to do all my schools. So I'm heading to Cali, Sunday, and I'm doing Costa Mesa and Fresno. And then I have a couple schools out there, but those are open to the public. You can RSVP to them. Like if you live in those areas, and I post it.
And if people wanted to see if you could come and speak at their school, like, is it often just moms requesting their school to have you come and speak?
Well, it's either the PTO, like parents, they'll put a request in, because usually, like, it all depends. Like the schools, it's either they're funded assemblies through the PTO, and you guys, like, the parents are raising money, or the school has like a professional development or a social emotional like learning grant, or they have funding for this type of stuff. So it's either the principal or the PTOs, or it's like a mom in the community that's kind of involved that does this kind of stuff. They'll put a request in, give the info, present it to the principal.
Okay. So people can find your dates on your website
on my website.
Instagram?
Yeah, on my website.
And we'll put all the show notes up. But your TikTok, Instagram, I mean, you have like 1 million followers. I'm just a kid with an IEP.
Yeah.
Very catchy. Like I said, I send the videos to my child all the time, and I'm always like, hi. He's like, great, thanks. But I know I can see that he's watched them. So
yeah, he watched them, and like even though he watches it, and he's like, my mom just sent this to me, but like he hears it, and he's like, that's my mom. Like she loves me, They know it.
Well. And I had said to him, I said, the videos of the guy that I always send you? He's like, I'm like, you can admit it. I know, I send them to you. And I said, I'm having him on my podcast. I said, do you care, like, if I speak about your situation? And he was like, oh yeah, I don't care. I mean, like now, because he's doing great, and he's got great accommodations, and he's at a great school. And, I think that was the thing. He struggled for so long when he was little, and it was just all about frustration and really not knowing what it was. And once we all, I think, kind of got like figured out what it was and the best way to go about it, it's like a new child, really,
Yeah.
like just thriving. Yeah.
When you talk to him, do you talk about, he's a sophomore in high school?
He's a junior.
He's a junior. Does he talk about college and things like that?
We talk about college, and I think for a long time too, he thought kind of like what you said, like when you were saying it, like I'm probably not going to college, right? I think also he like the thought, like if I don't have to go, I don't want to go, but also like I just don't think I want to do this for another 3 years, like because these years have been so hard. But at our school, again, like but it was a fight for me to get, because we're a smaller school and there's not a lot of space for these accommodations. But, just watching him thrive in that. And I read something a little while ago and it said, every time you achieve a task, you get a hit of dopamine in your brain. And I think like just with these different accommodations, it's like it's allowing him the time to achieve the task. And it's just making him more motivated to do better.
Right.
You think, well, you're doing bad. Get motivated to do better. It's like the worse you do, the less motivated you are to try.
Right, it's hard.
The better you do, it becomes easier to try because you enjoy that feeling of, like not being frustrated at the end of the day, or not looking at your marks every day, or getting a paper back every day, or feeling like your teacher's frustrated with you every day.
Yeah, and you want that feeling. You're like, I want it again. I want it. I want to feel good, especially when it felt good for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
No.
So yeah, and like tell him, like if I was like, if it was like your son, like if he ever says like, hey, I don't want to go to school, this is like my advice, right? And I don't think you need to go to college to be successful. Like I don't think that's really the case anymore. But like if what's in front of you is like, hey, I'm scared to do that because I don't think I can do it. And if it happens to be college, like I would say like go do it for that reason. I tell kids all the time, like, what's your biggest fear? Oh, my biggest fear is to fail out of school and I can't do school. And I'm like, well, you got to do it. Like, do that. And then after you do that, do whatever you want. But do that first. And it's hard, though, because then it's like, all right, do these kids go into $200,000 worth of debt also, right? So, like, there's definitely different situations. Like, if you have parents that, hey, we can afford this and we can pay for it and you're going to be debt-free, it's a different story, So, like, they got to weigh it out in that situation, too, because it is insane when it comes to the debt and the kids graduating and trying to, then they're got to pay their debt, get a job, live on their own. I mean, it's very hard. But they can do it, you make it, you make it, but you got to weigh that situation out. But, it's case by case. But I would say, like, in generally speaking, like, hey, like, if that place is your biggest fear, like, go run towards it, go do it, go see.
Just for that reason. Yeah.
And then see what happens. Like, see how much you change. Like, just, you have no idea. Like, the confidence is unreal.
Yeah.
And
well, I really, really thank you for being here today. And I already know, like, I can always kind of tell with certain podcasts, like the messages that will come back. And I just think there's going to be so many moms that are like, oh my gosh, she's telling me and my child's story. Like, I felt alone a lot about this. So I think it's great. And I can't wait for just people to just see your social media, and we'll put all your website and all that kind of stuff up.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And the moms that are listening, like, if I can tell them anything, like, do not, like I said before, do not give up on your kids. Like, they want you to, they think they want you to, but what will happen is they will look back in their life, right? And they'll never look back and go, Mom, you were so annoying. Mom, you were just so strict. Mom, you just cared so much. Like, they will never say that. Like, I look back at my life and I'm like, Mom, if you didn't do what you did, I would not be here doing this, like, thank you. So, like, they will always thank you. It's just right now they don't know yet. They just don't. So, like, keep that in your heart when you're, like, in the fight on the bad days. The days are long and everything is just not working. They're just, like, even like when they say, like, I told my mom I hated her all the time. Like, they don't hate you, right? Don't take it personal. They don't, that's just, you're the only one that's willing to take the risk on them, and that gets them to that level of anger because you're fighting for them, not because of any other reason. So don't let that discourage you as a mom, because I know my mom would have done anything for me to listen to someone like me, and there was no one there. So don't stop. It's all going to be okay.
Well, that is an awesome message to leave on, and I really appreciate your time, and thank you so much for being here.
Oh, you got
maybe we'll get to meet in person one day.
Yeah, we'll do it. We'll do a Nashville tour. We'll do it.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thanks so much.
You got it. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, thanks. That was great. That was awesome.
Oh, awesome, Jen. Thank you. Hey, Jen, my phone was ringing. Did I mess that up?
Oh.
Because
no.
I saw like numbers come up when it rang, but I just...
Oh, I didn't see any numbers. And even if it was something, he can switch to my part or something on the screen. So
okay, yeah, because I don't know why. My phone was on airplane mode.
I didn't see it.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I didn't see it. Yeah, I don't know. That's all right. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I think it'll be awesome. Well, and I didn't share. It's funny because I was saying to everybody here, so my son finally got accommodations for the ACT. So he got to take it over 4 days in 4 separate parts. And he has reading comprehension. So he got to have that read aloud to him. So I kept saying, have you gotten your score back? You gotten your score back? He's like, not yet. And I was like, I'm going to email. Like, I feel like you're not telling me. He's like, I swear I didn't. But he texted it was funny. I had my phone off on Do Not Disturb all day because we were recording. And I pick up my phone and I have all these missed calls. I have texts from like my other son. Hey, Dylan needs you to call him. And Dylan's like, Mom, call me urgent. And I'm like, what is happening?
Right, like something's wrong.
Then I see a text thread from our family and he's got a screenshot of his ACT scores. And it says overall, it says 27. His first ACT before the accommodations, he got a 16. So it says 27. And then underneath that, so it says the different subjects and it says reading 33. And I was like, so I call him and he answers the phone. He's like, hello. I'm like, what's happening? He's like, I'm in study hall. I'm like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And he's like, did you see my ACT marks? I'm like, yes, that's what you were calling me about. He was like, did you see the reading? I mean, and I was like he was just so proud of himself, you know? Yeah. Like I could just feel how, because it's like he's just always felt like he's not smart, right? And so I think for him to just have this validation that it wasn't the reading, it's how I was learning. It's how I was being tested on it. It wasn't me, right? So that was like, I was like, this is the perfect day to do this podcast. So
and that's exactly like the moment where like you could change. Like that's like his moment right there. Like he just like, wait, I could do this, and like he can use that moment forever. That's like the momentum, forever.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, anyways, thank you so much. I hope to meet you someday. And once this is all edited and stuff, I'll send you the link and the teaser video and let you know when it's going to be out.
Yeah. Also, I'll share it on my pages. I'll tag you.
Yeah.
Did you have a TikTok?
Perfect.
Do you have a TikTok page or no?
I don't have a TikTok. My daughter is like, please don't get a TikTok, Mom. All my friends already follow you on Instagram. I might get one for the podcast, but right now I don't have a TikTok.
All right. But I'll tell you. And you have a
Instagram.
Do you have a Facebook page at all, too, like a business page?
I have a Facebook page. Yeah. It's just a woman like you. Yeah.
All right. I could tag it on there too.
Okay. I appreciate it.
All
okay.
Right.
Thanks, Jordan.
All right,
okay. Have a good night. All right.
Too.
Okay. Bye.